Hi everybody. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, so my name is Zac. I am the CEO and co-founder of the Aztec network. We are a privacy-preserving layer 2 for Ethereum. And today I want to talk about a bit off the beaten track. Instead of just shedding Aztec, which is normally what I do for my day job these days, I want to talk more generally about privacy technology and how it can be utilized within Web3, not just to deliver meaningful value and useful activities, but also, in my opinion, I feel like privacy is a essential core value of blockchain in general, and is necessary to create what I would call a spiritual revival of blockchain. And I want to talk a little bit about what that is and why that is. So the years, we're in 2025. Blockchain's been around for a long time now. Ethereum is almost 10 years old. Or is it 10 years? I can't remember, I'm old. What is blockchain's canon? So by canon, I mean, what are the shared myths, the stories and the frameworks that people in this community use to understand the world and drive change? To give an example, if I say Silicon Valley technologists, that conjures up an image of somebody that in a sense is shared and a set of beliefs. So what is that image for blockchain? And to answer that question about what it is in 2025, let's go back to what it used to be. So going back to 2008 with Bitcoin, 2015 with Ethereum, what are the original values and tenets of Web 1.0? Because it's very different to what we have today. It was very anarchist coded. It was quite aggressively anti-authoritarian, but more generally anti-authority. The original goal of Bitcoin was to create an alternative means of payment. It was to create a form of money which directly contested fiat issued by nation states. And then you had people using Bitcoin as payment networks for platforms like the Silk Road, which was a very spicy website, particularly in Singapore. I'm not going to claim that this was a legitimate website, but it speaks to the values of some of the people in this community, and honestly, extremism. You had things like the DAO projects, where there were these very grand ambitious goals of creating these centralized organizations that would act like companies or like investment funds, but where individuals would contribute themselves as individuals. And you had organizations like WikiLeaks, which used Bitcoin as kind of a quasi-anonymous donation system and to enable information to be leaked and shared outside of sensitive organizations. And now let's go back, flash forward to today, and things are very different. Bitcoin is not an alternative means of payment, although it did succeed as a form of digital gold. But the modern traits that we're seeing in blockchain today are much more around things like the institutionalization of blockchain, where you have entities like the London Stock Exchange creating this digital markets platform. You have last year, you had on the Nasdaq, you had the Ethereum ETF being approved. There's much more focus on emphasis on infrastructure layers, and honestly, on pure technology instead of design outcomes. For example, my particular community is very much related to this as well. With so much more focus on the ZK, the SDK that has been a huge narrative. But what is it used for? As in, ZK is just a tool. Infrastructure is just a tool, and sometimes the design outcomes get lost in the noise. You have stablecoins as a core use case, where stablecoins as an idea didn't exist in 2015. And the original stablecoins were fully decentralized. Things like MakerDAO, where the idea is you collateralize a stablecoin based off of decentralized crypto assets. That's largely gone away, and now you have centralized stablecoins where effectively you have tokens that are proxies for US treasuries. And that's a core use case for Ethereum. And you generally have more the institutional consortium-based models, enterprise coming in and utilizing blockchain. Institutions coming in is now very popular to list tokens, effectively list tokens on traditional stock exchanges by performing reverse ledgers. So The overall revenue universe for liquidity on blockchains today is massive compared to what it was in 2015. And certainly, I imagine far beyond the expectations of those original pioneers, people like it's having. But I would argue that we've lost something in our journey. I think this might particularly resonate at the ACT events, because I feel like blockchain has two core promises. It promises to be a more efficient form of money, but it also promises to be a more efficient form of social organization, of allowing individuals to coordinate together, to collaboratively work on shared projects and shared ideas. This is what the DAO was originally trying to do. And that social organization part, that's part of what the ACT is a spiritual successor of. But I would argue it's also the party, the blockchain value proposition that has most fails to realize. And my hypothesis is that the very explicit and public failure of DAOs to really become meaningful entities is causing a slow and spiritual death of blockchain's original value, and it's changing the culture of blockchain in a way which is very damaging for the industry's long-term health. Because if blockchain only is a more efficient form of money, that's valuable, it's lucrative, but it does not inspire generations upon generations of innovators and builders and disruptors who come into the industry and dedicate their lives to creating radical change. Technology is downstream from culture, and without this social organization part, blockchain's culture, in my opinion, becomes space and weakness. And whilst blockchain will always be a useful technology, it won't be transformation. And so, my question and my thoughts are: how do we move into the future? As in, I don't think it's good to be reactionary and say, "Oh, the original value is better." Well, they kind of weren't, because they weren't scaled, and also some of it was the spirit of but I think there needs to be a synthesis of what used to be and what currently blockchain is. And I'm a very broken record about this. I think that the missing link is into privacy. The original tenets of Web alternative fails because of a lack of privacy. They like scale because of a lack of privacy. The current use cases of Web3 are restricted to being what they are because of a lack of privacy. Without privacy, you can't have decentralization, decentralized governance. Because if you think about voting on chain with a token, how do you determine who has that token? Either you use an oligarchy, effectively a multi-signature account, or you use plutocracy, whoever buys in those tokens has in those votes. These are the terrible things of governance. What you need is the ability to identify who the stakeholders of your organization really are, which requires things like private votes without any campaigns. And it requires understanding, having oracles, providing information from Web2, from the real world into Web3, trust system, so that smart contracts and the people using them can have an understanding of, again, who stakeholders are, what's happening outside of the smart contract mode. And this again requires privacy. And I'm talking about things like CPs and the LSCP. I think the future is going to have to make it easy the fact that you have institutions and enterprises coming to blockchain using its technology to act that in. And I think this can be a very good thing. But if compliance checks are required to interface with the real world, in my opinion, they need to be compatible with decentralization. You need to be able to prove what you're doing in real world, not just to a person, but to a smart contract. Decentralized, and that again, that requires privacy. That enables real-world assets that are compatible with DeFi as well. Imagine having something like having actual financial derivatives or bonds, whatever, within that framework. That would be very useful and compatible with the ethos of Web3. So anyway, I'm running out of time now. So in my opinion, privacy is the missing link. That's what we've been trying to build with Aztec. And by privacy, I mean fully permissionless, decentralized privacy. Anyone can write a smart contract on Aztec, anyone can deploy a smart contract on Aztec, anyone can send a transaction to Aztec. But you still have the ability to have private states. You can have encrypted state trees in Aztec where nobody knows who you are, nobody knows what smart contract you're transacting with, nobody knows the data that you want. And in my opinion, this is what's missing from blockchain. Is what we need to really accelerate this technology, make it big, and cause spiritual life. Anyway, I'm out of time now, so that's me. I'm from Aztec. We are hopefully launching early next year. Fingers crossed. Touch wood. Thank you for listening.